Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Śrīla Prabhupāda. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Śrīla Prabhupāda. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Śrīla Prabhupāda. Morning reading from Śrīla Prabhupāda Līlāmṛta, Additional Pastimes. Additional Pastimes of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vasudeva Swami Prabhupāda as summer in Montreal. Montreal Temple established now for a year and a half, occupied a bowling alley on the third floor of a building near McGill University. Although the gutters on either side of the 8 bowling lanes have been filled in with wood, thus creating a smooth level floor, the 8 hardwood lanes were still prominent. An altar and beer-stand stood against one wall, and a temporary wall partitioned off the men's quarters. There was also a kitchen and a separate quarters for the women. Prabhupada will daily climb the 2 flights of stairs and enter the spacious temple room. On the day of his arrival in Montreal, several devotees had carried him up the stairs in a palanquin, but the winding staircase made that too difficult to do daily, so Prabhupada chose to walk. The original Montreal devotee was John Nanda, a Canadian attending McGill University. John Ananda wore a beard and a long hair, even after his initiation, and lived in an apartment with his wife, who was staunchly opposed to Krishna consciousness. Acknowledging John Ananda as an intellectual, Prabhupada had written him long letters answering his philosophical doubts and requesting that he write essays and books on Krishna consciousness. So, just a quick review of this very text. How many of you have been to Montreal? How many of you have been to Montreal? Okay. Montreal is the French-speaking part of Canada. Canada is in North America. We have Canada, the United States, Mexico. These are countries in the North American sub-region. So this temple, Montreal, I've been there a number of times in the past. And Montreal is a very icy place. It's like Iceland. Even during November, it's not snowing. So people are very much adapted to the environment, to the climate. But if someone is coming from, say, a warm climate like India, it could be very difficult hanging out in Montreal for long. But then Prabhupada was in Montreal. And the description here given by Sasvarup Maharaj completely fits in. And that very temple is still there. It's a huge temple. And so Janananda being referred to here He's just giving us an idea, or at least like an iceberg, of the real life situation that many people many people face when they come to Krishna consciousness. Especially when they encounter Krishna consciousness, when they already had a family or a spouse. And if even you are not having a family or a spouse, you could have oppositions. It's a typical case here. Even the early followers of Prabhupada, some of them have had very intense oppositions. And so, for those of us who are joining after the departure of Prabhupada, we may still have the same circumstances facing us. We may still have oppositions. And therefore, it is not something new. There is really nothing new on this planet. We have oppositions when we come to Krishna consciousness. It's not that everybody is just going to support us. So here, Janananda's case is a typical example. He had a wife, and he was an intellectual, but the wife was very much opposed to Krishna consciousness. And so there are a number of things we can learn from this type of scenario, or the pastimes of with Śrīla Prabhupada's disciples. And so when we encounter challenges or oppositions in our endeavor to participate or to practice Krishna consciousness, it should not be considered, or it should not be viewed as an exclusive reality. But it is just a common denominator in the material world that whatever you try to do, you will have oppositions. So similarly, even in Krishna consciousness, we may have oppositions. Oppositions have been there. It may come from your family members. It may come from your friends. It may come from any quarters, any part of the societal setting. The original Mantra temple was Janananda, a Canadian, attending McGill University. When the temple had first opened, the McGill Daily had given Janananda a full page to introduce Swami Bhaktivedanta and Krishna consciousness. Again, the Prabhupada encouraged writings in the media, print media, social media, print media, digital media, of course. Digital media is very popular these days. So Prabhupada encouraged his disciples to write articles about Krishna consciousness, introducing the mission of Śrīla Prabhupada, because the media is considered an authority. Whatever people see in the media, people assume it or take it to be authentic. Yeah, like the TV is like an authority. Oh, I'm doing this. I saw this on TV. Yeah. So whether it is good or bad, and this is one of the strategies in subliminal advertising. People advertise their products on the television, on social media, and the general mass of people that are considered to be docile, whatever they see it in on social media, they accept it to be authority. They think it's the government who is putting up this. And so they buy the idea. That's the whole idea about social media preaching. And I hope that we are able to reflect on this and also take advantage. This is one of the very positive areas of preaching on social media, writing articles about Krishna consciousness on social media. And Prabhupada generally encourages. In India, we have so many devotees who have written so many volumes of literature on Krishna consciousness, which is very, very, very encouraging. Because when we have to write about Krishna consciousness or on Krishna consciousness and using our own language to be able to transplant that information to the modern youths, it makes a lot of meaning. Giving the example that in general people can't understand Śrīla Bhaktisiddhanta's writings because he wrote for a particular audience. And his disciples, his followers, were erudite scholars. So, for instance, if you read the Brahma Samhita, the commentaries of the Brahma Samhita, and even the translation of the Brahma Samhita by Bhaktisiddhanta is very erudite. For somebody, for the common person on the street, they will have to carry a dictionary as they are reading, because some of the words he used are really highfalutin. You need to open a dictionary to check the meaning. Especially his audience. His audience were like common people that anyone can pick up his book, read. You don't need a dictionary by you to read Prabhupada's books. Okay, so he wrote for a specific audience, his followers, and the general mass of people. And so if our devotees in the 21st century also develop thesis on the Vedic literature, on the teachings of Śrīla Prabhupāda and the past acharyas, and they put that in their own words, bearing in mind that the content is the same, the exploratory ideas and the explanations may be different, the examples and citations may be different. But then the whole idea is that a particular writing is having a specific as a target. And so Prabhupada encouraged his disciples to write books or to write articles in social media. The headlines had read, Mind Expansion Under Spiritual Guidance. Montreal's French daily newspaper, Le Nouveau Samedi, interviewed Jayananda and published an article. Quote, they claim that the Hindu god Krishna is the father of Christ and that the inhabitants of the moon are invisible. So this is something that people struggle with. And even some devotees in our movement in the Western countries. I remember when I left the U.S., I was in London for 7 days before going to Switzerland, Zurich. So in London, one of the preachers was asking me about UFOs. What's my view about UFOs? He said, your Guru Maharaj also wrote some things about UFOs in his books. What's your views about UFOs? So I told him that UFOs is there in the Vedic literature. They're talking about people in higher beings. You read the Vedic literature, you'll find how the description is given. People in higher beings, they use also have airplanes, but not the gross airplanes we use. So it's just a common factor that I knew about UFOs when I was an adolescent. People will have spiritual leaders of some organization would have regular TV programs, and I would watch those TV programs, and they give some explanation about UFOs. So yes, UFOs are real. But then even in our own books, the very concept of UFOs is explored. It's just in other languages. So again, the very idea of writing for a particular audience comes to bear. In the modern times, the very terminology UFOs refers to a higher beings, and we understand from the Vedic literature, from the Bhagavatam itself, how there are different hierarchies in the planetary systems. And so we have higher beings, Brahma Loka, the other lower heavens, and all the stuff. And so this is not something strange. And so in the West, a number of people are baffled by this very concept of higher beings or UFOs. And so it was something in vogue in the 60s. And so now the Montreal paper, the McGill paper, was referring to Krishna as the Hindu god. But Krishna is not an Hindu god. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is the Supreme Lord of even the Muslims, the Supreme Lord of the Christians. So it's not just a Hindu god. But Prabhupada would always like some publication in newspaper, whether this is something incorrectly or correctly, once Krishna is there, Prabhupada will be very happy because, the whole world, people who read it can become purified by the very concept of Krishna. About a dozen members had joined the Montreal temple, but so far they had done little to spread Krishna consciousness in Montreal. They had spent most of their energy maintaining themselves spiritually and financially. Although they had held some public kirtans at the 1967 World's Fair, mostly they had concentrated on transforming the bowling alley, cleaning, cooking for Krishna, and meeting together for classes and kirtans. When Śrīla Prabhupāda saw Janananda's academic studies distracting him from temple management, he asked Janananda to appoint a temple commander. One night when Prabhupada came to the temple for his lecture, as soon as he sat on the Vyasasan, he looked out to Janananda and asked, quote, "So, have you found a temple commander yet?" Unquote. Quote, "Oh no," Janananda replied, "not yet." Prabhupada then turned toward the altar and beheld the deities. "That's all right," he said. Lord Jagannath is a temple commander." No, Lord Jagannath has very big eyes. And so, Lord Jagannath, he has big eyes, so big eyes, not just for fancy. The big eyes, they see beyond time and space. So, the devotees must understand that Jagannath, although he might be seated in Puri, he's watching through the whole world. And for the devotees, he's even more concentrated on watching them about what they're doing. So whether it is in the dead of night, whether we are in our rooms, or whether we are in a secluded place, Lord Jagannath is watching us. And besides, Lord Jagannath is also seated in our hearts as a super soul. So for the devotee, we've been watched all the time. We've been watched all the time. And therefore, whatever we are doing, we have to ask ourselves, is this something that is sanctioned by Lord Jagannath? Is it something that is sanctioned by Lord Krishna? Because Krishna is there in the heart. We don't need external policing to do what is right. So Prabhupada is making a reference here to the fact that if even Janananda, the temple president in Montreal at the time, could not find or appoint a temple commander, he had his firm faith in the Lord. The Lord is watching. Lord Jagannath is the temple commander. So, here we have our presiding deities, Sisi Radha Padasati, Sisi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, and Sisi Gora Nitai. So, they are also our temple commanders. And so, whatever we are doing, we have to be reminding ourselves that the deities are watching us. One evening in the temple, as Prabhupada concluded his lecture about Prahlad Maharaj, he asked if there were any questions. Himawati, one of the women disciples, raised her hand. Prabhupada, yes. Himawati. Prahlad Maharaj was such a great devotee that he said, "Nothing is mine." But then, why does he say, "My God"? How could God become his? Why does he say that? Prabhupada. Then what shall he say? Himawati, I don't understand. How can he say it? if you understand nothing belongs to you, then how can you say God is mine? Prabhupada. Krishna is the Lord of everyone. Therefore, everyone can say, my Lord. That does not mean if somebody says, my Lord, God becomes monopolized. You are speaking on the platform of monopolizing mind, but God is never monopolized. He is everyone's. So everyone has the right to say, my God and my Lord. In a material sense, when I say it is my wife, that means she is not any other's wife. But God is not like that. I can say, my God, but you can also say, my God. He can say, my God. Everyone can say, my God. This is the absolute mind. So, what Himawati Maharaja posed before Prabhupada is something to reflect on, because yes, we have this concept of mind, I and mine, aham mameti. So this is the line she's coming from. So if our philosophy debunks the idea that we don't really own anything, so how could someone say, my God, or my Lord, or my Jagannath? So Prabhupada is giving some explication, expounding on the very concept of mind in this setting. This is the contextual framework of the very terminology mind here. Now, words do have different meanings in different contexts. In literature, we have these two terminologies, connotative and denotative meanings. Connotative meaning means you use a particular word within a particular context, but that word also has a specific literary definition. So terminologies are also like that. And when we talk about denotative meaning, it implies within the contextual framework. When we talk about denotative meaning, is this the literal meaning of that very word. For instance, we have the term table. A table is a wooden framework we can use for reading, we can use for eating, or whatever. And that is a noun. A table is a noun. Okay, material noun. But then you can also say, so I've tabled this question before you. Now the word table is used as a verb. And so this is connotative presentation of the word table. So even the concept of mind here is being viewed as within this framework or within this context as something possessive. So Prabhupada is giving explanation that the possessiveness in this case is generalizable. Anyone can say, my God, my Krishna, my Sisi Radha Patasrat, Sisi Gauranitai, Sisi Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. And so, if we have some deep understanding of contextual meanings and the very idea of denotative and connotative meanings of terms, we can be confused when people tend to be possessive when they use a particular language or particular words, in this case, the concept of mind. Krishna says, all these creatures are my parts and parcels. Mama evamso jiva loke. Mama means mine. So, why the living creatures shall not say, my God? Do you follow? Krishna says, you are mine. Why shall I not say, Krishna, you are mine? Your husband says, you are mine, why shall you not say to him, you are mine? But don't take it in a material sense. In material sense, as soon as I say this is mine, then it belongs to no one else. It is my property. But Krishna is not like that. So you can say Krishna is mine, there is no harm. Rather, if anyone wants to possess something as his, that position should be Krishna's. That is the ultimate conception of mind. That is the perfection of the word mind. So see, just one word, and Prabhupada is expanding on it, explaining back and forth about it. But just one word, mind. Huh? Prabhupada is the best of scholars. Śrīla Prabhupāda, okay. Scholars are very proud in word explorations, but we see Prabhupada has all of these knowledge base. He might not have studied language arts in the university. People specialize in different areas, and we see in the life of Prabhupada, although Prabhupada did not go to a management school, but he's the best of managers. Although Prabhupada did not do any research on talent management, but he is the best of talent managers. You know what is talent management? Talent management means engaging people according to their talents and their skills. So Prabhupada, one time Prabhupada went to Georgia, Atlanta, in America. So he went to Georgia, and this scientist, one of Prabhupada's disciples, Sadhuputra, he had joined. He has a PhD in some science field. So he had joined. So when Prabhupada went to Atlanta, he asked the president, so this scientist, is he here? The president said yes. What is the engagement? The president said, we engage him to be washing dishes. And the Prabhupada looked at him and said, all that you know is to engage people to wash dishes? He's a scientist. Send him to Bhakti Vasudeva to the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Yes, we say people come to our temples, they should engage in menial service. Menial service. But then the temple managers must also understand, have some skills in talent management, engaging people based on the skills and talents that they have to be able to unleash their potentials maximally in Krishna service, to bring about high productivity in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada was very expert in talent management. We see in the case of Sadhuputra that he mildly chastised the temple president while he's engaging him to wash dishes. When he's a scientist, he's supposed to be serving with Bhakti Vasudeva Swami. So this is quite nice, quite fit. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says he is mine and I'm his. Krishna says, so this is not wrong. And what is your idea? That because everything belongs to Krishna, therefore I shall not say mine. That's your idea. Himawati, I didn't understand this, that Krishna is the Lord. So my Lord is everyone's Lord. Prabhupada, yes. Himawati, he is the controller, and that's why he is mine. Prabhupada, he is mine, he is yours, everyone's. That's all. Himawati, I can understand. So again, this is the very beauty of Krishna consciousness, a relationship between the guru and disciple. We find also this in the case of Arjuna. Here, Imawati was confused initially, but she had her doubts clarified. Krishna consciousness is a process of clarifying our ambiguities. We must have ambiguities at some point in time in our lives. That is why we need a living mentor, a living spiritual master to help to demystify our doubts. So we see here, Imawati, Mataji was having some doubts about this very concept of Prahlad, saying Krishna, my Lord. And here Prabhupada demystified the whole of Himawati's ambiguities. It's like Arjuna saying, my doubts are clarified. So she says, no, she says, I understand. And Prabhupada, that's all. Rukmini, I feel so far away from you, you know, when you are not here. And Prabhupada, what is that? I can't follow. Janardana. Janardana. She is saying she felt so far away from you when you were not here. And Prabhupada, oh, that you should not think. There are two conceptions, the physical conception and the vibration conception. The physical conception is temporary, and the vibration conception is eternal. Just like we are relishing the vibration of Krishna's teaching. So my vibration is also present. As soon as we chant the Hare Krishna or chant Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavat, so Krishna is present immediately by vibration. He is absolute. Therefore, vibration is more important than physical presence. When you feel separation from your spiritual master, you just have to remember his words and his instructions. And you will not feel separation. You will feel like he is with you. So, we should associate by the vibration, not by the physical presence. That is real association, sabda anavriti. By sound, just like we are touching Krishna immediately by sound. So we should give more stress on this sound vibration, either of Krishna or the spiritual master. Then we will feel happy and no separation. So we find, what time is the class starting? 9. So we find that sometimes the disciples, they get, pissed off because of the physical absence of the spiritual master. So here, Rukmini also is expressing the same thing in Montreal Temple in Canada. And Prabhupada is, giving some idea on how to bridge that gap. In academia, when you have to write something, some research, a fundamental idea is you're trying to bridge a gap. You're trying to fill a lacuna, something that someone has not done. Otherwise, it just becomes like a paratology, repeating same things over and over again. So, lacuna is the idea that people have to bridge the gap. So we also have this gap in our spiritual life. When the spiritual master is physically not there. For instance, if someone has been very close to a spiritual master, serving the spiritual master, doing the massage and all this stuff, doing personal servant, cooking for the spiritual master, and all of a sudden, spiritual master leaves, there's a lacuna in their lives. There's a gap in their lives. So Prabhupada is explaining that the gap can be bridged by remembering the instructions of the spiritual master. Because what is more important in our spiritual life than anything else is to please the spiritual master. How do we please the spiritual master? by executing his instructions. Yeah, you might be very close to the spiritual master, but the spiritual master is going to leave one day. So when I was in Switzerland, one of my aspiring disciples came from, three of them, they came from Germany to be with us for the 7 days we were in Switzerland. So this boy who was assisting me, was serving, personal assistant there, he's from Germany. So he asked me, Maharaj, so see, I'm close by you. What if physically you're not on the planet? What shall I do? I said, so being close by physically, by physical proximity, yes, is a good thing. But this is not the be all and end all. You have to remember the instructions of the spiritual master. So whether he is physically away or his presence, the essence of the relationship is to remember the instructions of the Guru and execute those instructions. So Prabhupada is also giving the same explication here to Rukmini. Now, yeah, you may feel that separation, but it's not required because the vibrations are there. So we chant Krishna's name. We may not physically see Krishna, but Krishna is there in his holy names. In fact, when we chant the holy name, Krishna is dancing on our tongue. But how many of us are able to perceive this? So we may not perceive it right now because of the cruelties in our lives, because of the pathological state of consciousness that we have, that the mirror of the mind is completely dusty. So we may not be able to see our image. But if the mirror is cleansed up, the dust on the face of the mirror is cleansed up, you can use the mirror, you can see a reflection in the mirror. If the mirror is dusty, we cannot see that. So, chanting the holy names of the Lord are also like using the mirror. So initially, the mirror, the power of the mirror is still there. But if the mirror is dusty, we may not be able to see our reflection in the mirror. So we chant Krishna's names, which is the foundation of our Krishna consciousness movement. And Lord Chaitanya established the Krishna consciousness movement based on science. You see, Krishna, you will hear Prabhupada sometimes, he will say Krishna consciousness is a science. And so sometimes people ask, how are we to explain this? Huh? Yes, it's a science. It is a science. For instance, the very concept of congregational chanting, the Sankirtan movement that Lord Chaitanya established, which Prabhupada went to the West to spread, is based on science. In management science, in the social sciences, we have a concept that is referred to as synergy. Synergy is a model where when people, that's the principle of synergy is what sustains team spirit. Why we have to come in teams, why we have to come together to chant the holy names. Lord Chaitanya, he did not give explanations. But here is the principle of synergy in play. And so the synergy is the principle or the model where it implies when people come together to do a particular thing, the result is always greater than individuals doing that same thing separately and bringing the results of those individuals together. Do you understand? Is it clear? Do you understand what synergy is mean? That is a principle that Lord Chaitanya established the Krishna consciousness for. He could have said, look, everybody, lock up yourselves in your homes, in your rooms, and chant Hare Krishna. He says, come together and chant. Let's come together and chant. Even the nocturnal kirtans that he had with his close associates, they came together to chant. And that is based on the principle of synergy. we emphasize team spirit. It's based on the principle of synergy. Because when people come together to do a particular thing, the result is always greater than individuals doing that same thing. And that is why Prabhupada would sometimes say, this Krishna consciousness is a science. Lord Chaitanya established the Krishna consciousness on the basis of science. Because the Krishna consciousness is the pivotal model of Krishna consciousness is synergy. And that's the science. And so Prabhupada is mentioning here about the chanting, that when even the spiritual master is physically not there, when we remember his instructions, which is vibrations, we remember his instructions and execute those instructions, we get the same benefit, and there will be no question of separation. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? When Krishna departed from this world, at that time, Arjuna was overwhelmed with sorrow, and he began to remember the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Then he was pacified. Immediately he began to remember the teaching which was taught to him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he was pacified. When Krishna was his constant friend, so when the Lord went to his abode, Arjuna was feeling overwhelmed, but he began to remember his teachings. So whenever we shall feel separation, the best thing is to remember the teachings. Then it will be very nice. Is that clear? Is that clear? Prabhupada is asking, is that clear? Yeah, this is a very intriguing methodology in teaching or in passing instructions to students. So the teacher talks, he speaks, the professor speaks, and then he is wanting some feedback. What I've been saying over the past minutes or the past hour, do my students, do they understand? So Prabhupada is asking, is it clear? Yeah. When we keep talking, and we don't know whether the people understand what we are saying. Whether the audience understand what we are saying or not. And we keep talking, and talking is good. But we should also get the feedback whether the people understand what we are saying. What we are saying. Rukmini, yes. One of the girls asked, Prabhupada, will you be our father eternally? Will you always be our spiritual master eternally? Jokingly, Prabhupada said, yes, I think so. Then he quoted a verse, Tachudan Dilo Jai, Janme Prabhu say. But he said, Janme Peter say. The one who has opened my eyes, he is my father, life after life. So sometimes we come to Krishna consciousness and we get rejected by the parents. Father rejects you. Mother is difficult to reject, but father is very easy to reject you when you're doing something that they don't like. So we still have Prabhupada as our father, or the spiritual master as our father. Prabhupada was concerned about the weak financial condition of the Montreal temple. Although some of the devotees were employed, their work wasn't very auspicious. One disciple had a job, at the No Sags Spring Factory, which Prabhupada called Ugra Karma, bitter, unwholesome labor. When Nanda Kishore told Prabhupada about his job as a boss boy in a restaurant, and Prabhupada replied, "Oh, a blind uncle." Nanda Kishore looked puzzled. And Prabhupada told him the story of a boy who had no uncle. One day a blind man came to the boy's home and said, "I am better than no uncle." But when Nanda Kishore told Prabhupada the details of his work and that he was sometimes cooking meat, Prabhupada remarked, "Oh, but not so blind." The question of financing the Montreal temple puzzled Prabhupada, and he carefully analyzed the situation. There were two parts of Krishna consciousness, he said. One for those who were renounced eating fruits from the trees and living in caves, and the other for those who were married and honestly employed, like Krishna's friend Arjuna. Both parts were good, but the question for Prabhupada was, which part his disciples should take? If they attempted to take the part of ascetics like Sukadeva Goswami, they would probably remain hippies. And Prabhupada wanted many big centers with respectable guests coming to take prasadam. Yet, if to maintain such temples, the devotees have to engage in Ugra Karma, then who will preach? It was a puzzle. I have either to stop this Brahmanical system, Prabhupada said, or have to have Brahmanas work. He thought of starting his own business. He had a little capital, and there was organization. Then he thought of enlisting the support of Indians in Montreal. Montreal had a large Indian community already attending Sunday feasts at the temple. Of those who came forward to meet Prabhupada, the most promising was young Gopal Karna. You know Gopal Karna? A business major at McGill University. Although raised in an Orthodox Hindu family, Gopal knew little of the Vaishnava philosophy. The day before Śrīla Prabhupāda had arrived in Montreal, Gopal received an initiation card from a devotee. Because for the past year, Gopal had been seriously wanting to understand God. He had been interested in his spiritual search. He had been attending services at a Hindu temple in Toronto, as well as visiting various other churches and temples. He had given up meat eating and smoking, and coming to the temple and seeing the excitement of the devotees in preparing for Prabhupada's arrival, Gopal had asked to help. So one of the devotees had instructed him to help clean Prabhupada's apartment. And Prabhupada had taken an interest in Gopal, who, although he had never met a sadhu before and didn't know what to think at first, respected Prabhupada. What's the time there? Okay, so we may stop. Let's take this last. Yeah, we may stop there. Are there some questions also? So here, the last paragraph here describing Srila Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. How he was coming to the temple. He was in McGill University in Toronto. When he was coming to the visiting temple, he had the opportunity to be able to personally clean Prabhupada's apartment. So best service to the spiritual master creates bonding, connection. Service service, devotional service. And so, we have to understand, even Lord Krishna mentions that in his discussions with Arjuna in the Padma Purana. Krishna mentions those who claim to be his devotees are not his devotees. Those who are servants and servants of his devotees. So serving the spiritual master, serving Prabhupada, serving the devotees around us. And this is very important, in creating sustainable bonding with devotional service or with Krishna. Yes, any question? We have about 2 more minutes or so. Yes.
Few comments. Thank you. So there are some points when Maharaj read this Prabhupada Līlāmṛta book. So one point is that the daily newspaper printed the message of Krishna that Krishna is the father of Christ. So this is very important point, that Bible, there is no difference between Bible and Gita. In Bible, the Christ says that I am son of God. In Gita, Krishna says, I am father of all living entities. So Christ is the liberated son of God, and he came from the spiritual world to give the message of God to all these living entities, the conditioned souls. And Bhagavad Gita says that we are conditioned souls. So we are separated from our Father, we are conditioned, and Christ is the liberated soul who is living with his Father. So there is no difference between Gita and Bible. Second point is, in moon, they have reached moon, and they say that there is no inhabitant in moon. So Prabhupada suggested that if there are inhabitants in moon, you cannot see them. Just like in our daily life, there are so many ghosts. They are ghosts and we cannot see them. And the ghost also, if they want that they should be seen, then you can see them. Otherwise you cannot see them. So there are so many ghosts, Bhut, Pret and Brahma Rakshas. So many living entities are there. And they are shouting, they are speaking, but we cannot listen their voice also. If they don't want, we cannot listen their voice, but they have their own voice. So in the same way, in moon, if there are inhabitants, you cannot see. Our technology is not so much advanced that we can see the ghosts also in our daily life. And third point was temple commander. Prabhupada used this temple commander word. This is first time in the history in the temple there should be a temple commander. So this is the first time that in history the temple president, temple commander, these words are used. Prabhupada is army general. In Chaitanya Mangal says that Senapati Bhakta. So Prabhupada is Senapati Bhakta. He is army general, Prabhupada. And he appoints somebody as temple commander. So temple commander means the army commander, the army which stays in the temple. And then Prabhupada says, Arjuna remembered instructions of Bhagavad Gita. He felt that Krishna is with him. But gopis feel, Radharani feels separation of Krishna. Separation is like poison, and they are dying out of the separation of Krishna. But remembrance of Krishna is like nectar. This nectar does not allow them to die. In this way, the gopis Radharani are dying and also not dying for the remembrance of Krishna. So there are some points to be discussed. Hare Krishna.
Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai. See what is taught. Yeah.